All right, perfect. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tobias, and the title of this presentation is Ocean Data and Information System, a Catalog of Sources. So this presentation is intended to provide a bit of history and a short update on the work that's been underway with ODIS, and to provide some insight into where we hope ODIS will go. So a bit of history. In 2016, there was an audit of the IOC, and that included the IOC Marine Data and Information Exchange System. So that would include basically IODE and the whole data and information management environment. There were a number of observations that came out of the audit. It was noted that there was no single database or common database for all of marine science. Which is not surprising given the breadth of fields. There were a large number of systems and websites that were observed and perceived or deemed to be out of date or not relevant. There were many barriers to data and information exchange and integration, differences in technology. Issues surrounding real or perceived competition between IODE stakeholders, many organizations providing what seem to be duplicative systems or data and information, and because of disparities in available resourcing, funding, people, infrastructure, the member states are not always able to participate equitably in the community. The result was a recommendation coming out of the audit. The auditors recommended that the IOC call on the member states to work together and to construct a universal information system, an ocean data portal, and to provide a cost-benefit analysis in advance of the IODE session. So it would have been IODE 24. So in response to the audit, a concept was developed, and so this is the first concept that was presented at IODE 24. And I guess what is important is that at the onset, it was recognized that in order to really achieve the goals of the recommendation from the audit, IODE needed to support expert and non-expert users. To be able to integrate both data and information, and to be able to work across systems because of the enormous suite of systems in the marine landscape. A concept paper was developed and presented at IODE 24, and a decision was made that IODE would work with its stakeholders, both within and outside the IOC, to basically improve the access, discoverability, and interoperability of data information, and also to work towards actually developing the global data and information system referred to in the audit. So this system was called the IOC Ocean Data and Information System, and what is important here is that IODE specifically is looking at establishing and using established systems where they exist. One of the concerns raised at IODE 24 was the lack of available funding and resources within the IOC to really build and sustain a system on this scale on its own. So the second decision that was made was to establish an intersessional working group to continue the development of the ODIS concept, and to undertake some short-term development activities to advance the concept itself. So the intersessional working group met in March of 2018, and taking a step back from the original concept, the group discussed three potential options for ODIS. The first was a simple list of links, and these types of lists already exist. The group decided fairly quickly that this really was not where we wanted to stop with ODIS, because it really did not provide a lot of value back to users. There was some discussion about the development of a repository of sources. So rather than trying to build an omnibus data and information system that is available and able to deliver data from all the contributing systems on day one, to start by simply getting the IODE member states to identify data systems, websites, data catalogs, and other sources where they exist, and to have a registry of those sources, and to use that as a way to help guide expert and non-expert users to relevant resources without having them resort to simply resorting to using commercial web search engines to find those resources. The third option, which aligned pretty closely with the original concept that was presented at IODE 24, was the development of a central portal to allow both the discovery and access to data and information. The group concluded very quickly that the third option was not realistic at the time, simply because of the substantial resource requirements in order to actually deliver that. So the group settled on developing something along the lines of option 2, which is a repository of sources, and to actually build that in such a way that in the future it could contribute towards an option 3, no matter where and how that was implemented. So what that means for the user is to have an ODIS landing page where it's very easy to search among registered resources, and really taking away a lot of the noise that you find when using your typical web browser to look for sites of interest. And this was something that was felt could be done because there were inventories that already existed that could be leveraged, and using the NODC contacts in the member states, it was felt that additional information could be pulled together into a catalog without a lot of undue effort. So the team at Bliz, taking information from previous inventory exercises and technology from other development they've done, developed an initial ODIS prototype for discussion with the intersessional working group. So it was a very simple prototype, essentially having an interface of facets, a series of data systems and catalogs and organizations that were registered, and providing an ability to simply select and deselect facets, and with that, have the organization and resources appear and disappear from the search results. So it was a very limited prototype. It was not based on any formalized metadata scheme, but I think it reinforced the need to have some intelligent design at the onset in terms of how we actually describe the resources that would go into ODIS, because having these types of faceted search facilities would really facilitate an easy discovery of useful resources. In the fall of 2018, the expert team on data management practices met in Ostend, and part of that meeting was focused on activities related to ODIS, and a couple of key activities that were undertaken by ETD included the development of a draft proposal for a metadata scheme for ODIS, along with some work on identifying some key vocabularies to help standardize some of the content that would be populated in the system. The group also had discussions with other IODE initiatives, such as the Ocean Best Practices team, as there were other technological developments that were seen to be potentially useful in the future of ODIS. And also the group talked about potentially refocusing some of the resources formerly focused solely on ODP to actually assist in advancing the ODIS concept. So following ETDMP, between the ETDMP, the members of the Intersessional Working Group, and the IODE Project Office, A metadata scheme was finalized as a first draft for discovery in ODIS. It's based upon mixed standards, including ISO 19115, Dublin 4, and schema.org. And a number of established vocabularies were identified and incorporated into the standard. So using the updated metadata scheme, the IODE project office developed a second ODIS prototype. So this prototype had more intelligence behind it than the first version. It implemented the metadata scheme that was developed in partnership with ETDMP. There were some rounds of feedback provided to the developer in the IODE project office. And this system is now online and I think was announced last week. So what we have again is a system that allows for very simple access to a register of over 300 resources the last time we checked. By selecting the type of system of interest, part of a more detailed search facility is populated, and the list of 300 or so resources that were identified by the NODCs is filtered. So this is a good starting point and delivers, from a technical perspective, the spirit of what the intersessional working group was looking to do in the short term. So in terms of the project status, much of the short-term work is well in hand. So anything in green is essentially being completed. But there is some major activity that will be needed between now and June and July of 2019. Specifically, finalizing the ODIS concept paper, developing cost-benefit analysis for developing the next round of ODIS, and a proposal for how ODIS is going to evolve. And ultimately, the goal is to have the next iteration of ODIS presented at the UN Oceans Conference in Portugal next year, depending on the availability of resources. So part of this week will be to provide an update to the IODE member states, but also to seek their participation in populating content using the system that was advertised last week. The IODE project office is looking to collect feedback on the prototype and suggestions on enhancements to help plan future development, and also to begin some discussions on developing use cases to provide some potential value-added products coming from that inventory. Ultimately, the goal is for ODIS to be useful, and any improvements for improving the usability of the catalog, that feedback would be appreciated, and also any potential extensions to the metadata content. And finally, the intersessional working group will be looking to finalize the next round of that ODIS concept paper and the cost-benefit analysis for IFC. In the future, regardless of where ODIS ends up, so ODIS is currently being developed and hosted by the IODE project office, that may not be where it lands in the longer term. But ultimately, what we want is we want to have an ODIS that has a register of relevant sources. We want to see people use ODIS as a way to find other relevant organizations and systems to foster collaboration at the working level. And we want to see that and data and information from the contributing systems that are registered in ODIS to have a facility to actually deliver lower level data and information products to users. And the hope is that if ODIS is useful, all of this lower level work will continue to feed ODIS at a higher level. And so for more information, there is a poster in the poster areas, and Arno is available and is able to provide a demo for a prototype, both facilities for submitting resources and also for querying and seeing the results. And if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.